Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everyone. Tracy here. Welcome back to another episode. I am so thankful to have you joining me for another fantastic conversation. But before we dive right in, a quick word from this week's sponsor.
Attention farmers. If you're looking for a new TMR mixer or manure spreader, you can save big on Kuhn night machines now. With a wide range of models and sizes, Kuhn delivers unmatched productivity and quality. Trusted by farmers for durability and exceptional performance. Don't miss out. Get up to $10,000 off select Kuhn night mixers and spreaders today. Talk to your local dealer or learn more at Kuhn.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, I have an amazing guest. I have Colleen Stegenga. If I got that right, you get to correct me after, Colleen, from Embracing Change Counseling. We're going to be talking about all things mental health, and I am super excited for this conversation. First off, Colleen, go ahead and correct me. How do you say the last name?
You were very close. Colleen Stegenga.
Okay.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. That's okay.
Yeah, it's a lovely one. I gave it my best effort. I was
Yes,
close.
you did. You did.
Good.
Not a problem at all.
We are connected on LinkedIn. I follow your work. You've been kind of
follow
following mine.
yours.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
appreciate that. You're doing some good stuff. I love how you're out there supporting farmers and mental health. Why don't we start our conversation a little bit about who you are and your background, and then we're going to go into some good stuff here. I think that's quite timely. Yeah.
Well, I'm a farm girl. I grew up on a dairy farm.
Okay.
Third generation. Our grandfather came over from Germany in the late 1800s and started. This is the actual homestead that they started. And two of my brothers have taken over the operation. They still milk cows. They still do everything, and it's just the two of them. So I grew up, on the farm, and looking back now as an adult, boy, I didn't have a clue about what my parents were faced with when making decisions about farming. I knew that farming kind of can take over your life, and we had to plan everything around when the cows needed to be milked. And so I knew that I was leaving the farm when I graduated. I didn't want anything to do with farming because it dictated your life. But it's funny how life works. My husband and I just recently moved back about 5 miles down the road from where I grew up. And I still can't believe it yet myself some days. But it's funny how life changes you, and you kind of get to a point where you realize what was really important and what you miss. Now I'm not milking cows, nope. But I am nearby, and so if my brothers need help, I'm happy to jump in, especially when it comes to the animal part. I love the animal part.
Nice.
Yeah, so as far as the farming piece, like I said, I'm not farming. I did come back though as a counselor, and so that's a little bit of a different arena to kind of try to blend those two areas. They're very opposite. So I do a lot of talking for my employment and listening, and you don't do a lot of talking in farming. I mean, at least not where I came from. You keep things pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Yep. And just push through. So it's been an interesting ride.
Nice. I was going to say, except for when I go out in the pasture and every once in a while on the quad, just talk to the cows. They're the best listeners.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they don't talk back, right?
Yeah. Actually, they probably don't even listen. They just keep on chewing the grass, but it feels good.
It does feel good. Absolutely.
Speaking of listening and counseling, I'm curious. So, your journey, you were on the farm, and like many kids, especially dairy kids, I worked on a dairy farm. No offense.
Oh,
Dairy's beautiful. I love all agriculture, but dairy is intense. I'm a beef farmer. We're beef farmers. I worked on
hmm
a dairy during university and did the milk shift before class. Oh my gosh. Okay, don't
yeah.
tell anybody, but I probably fell asleep a few times in class, right? Like early mornings, and you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Ah."
Uh-huh.
So what was your journey? Like you went
Mm.
out into the world. How did you end up in counseling? What I'm getting
Mm.
at, I really love knowing people's why, like their
Oh,
mission, their vision,
sure.
why they do what they do. So do you want to talk about that and then get into the
You
work you do?
bet. Yeah, you bet. Well, I didn't rush right into counseling. Like a lot of kids at 18, you don't really know what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it was later in life, probably, well, I had an inkling in my late 20s, but it didn't come to fruition. But then later in life, so my mid 30s, I ended up working at an elementary school in Sioux Falls, and it was a very high poverty, high need elementary
Mm.
school. And I encountered situations I have never seen. I mean, I grew up Midwest. We certainly weren't wealthy, but we didn't really have to go without.
Mm.
And you knew your neighbors. And I mean, it was just such a different world. And I saw kids that, I mean, kids would come brand new to school and they wouldn't have clothes or they wouldn't have a coat
Really?
or maybe there wasn't money for groceries. It just really blew my mind, like, wow. And so within that job, I was in charge of the office and like the accounting and just making sure the office ran. But then my principal kind of gave me free rein, like, hey, if you want to kind of take on a social work role, go
Oh,
for it. As long
wow.
as the other stuff gets done, I'm happy with whatever you want to do. So I kind of became like a social worker, and I would find ways of getting bargains and come with coats and snow pants and snow boots, or find people that would donate. And then kind of everybody at school just started collaborating, and we had a closet. So when kids showed up, we could help
Wow.
meet some of their needs. And then then that kind of grew, and people would donate money, and so we would have an account set aside, so if families showed up and they couldn't buy groceries, we could help them out a little bit, or they needed gas for their car to get to a job interview. um, Maybe they needed extensive dental work, but they didn't have the fund. Like, we had a little bit of a slush fund. And so I kind of learned that role. Like, I wanted to help people. So my principal encouraged me to go back to school. And I thought, oh, no, I'm too old. And, we're raising kids, and who's
Mm.
got time for school? Well, I couldn't let it go. And so I applied to two schools in my state, South Dakota State and USC. And I thought, well, I want to be a school counselor so then I can work with the kids when they come into the system. And I just thought, yep, this is what I'm going to do. And lo and behold, no, that wasn't part of the plan. I didn't get accepted in either program. They claimed that my undergrad GPA just wasn't high enough. So I mean, to say that I was a little bit devastated was
Yeah.
putting it mildly,
Yeah.
but nobody ever considered asking me, well, why was your GPA not higher? Nobody had any idea what I was dealing with. And I guess that's just kind of how life works. But I had some extenuating circumstances within my family. Um, our dad was a World War II veteran,
Mm.
and so that colored a lot of our family life.
Mm.
He didn't get any resources when he came out of service.
Gosh.
So he tried to cope the best way he could,
Mm.
which wasn't very good. And so there was a lot of dysfunction. And then our mom, she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, oh gosh, 58 or 59, very young. I had gone off to college, and that first year that I was gone, she kind of just like fell apart.
Oh.
And so that diagnosis came the following year. And so there just was so much going on within my family. And my studies were not my focus,
No
you
kidding.
know?
Yeah.
And so I think underneath it all, and now I can look back, like all of the experiences that I had growing up, that's kind of what got me to where I am now. Um, so, I got the rejection letters and I just kind of involved myself in some volunteer work. And then one night I couldn't sleep. So I was just scrolling the internet and an ad popped up for social work. And I thought, oh, social work, like I hadn't really thought about that. Um, so I talked to my husband the next morning. I said, what do you think? And he said, I think you should apply. So I did. I applied to 3 schools and I got accepted at all of them.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it
Yeah.
just like,
Right on.
okay, I
Yeah.
guess this is where I'm supposed to go. So, and then I was very fortunate at the time. One of the state schools opened up their program in the city where I live, so I didn't have to commute. Um, and then my principal at work, she went to the school district and requested that they drop my employment like by a certain percentage so that I could attend classes. I didn't lose benefits. I didn't lose my rate of pay.
Wow.
I just worked 4 days a week instead of 5. And then that one day a week, I was in classes all day. So I mean, that was huge that she
Hmm.
was willing to do that for me. And they agreed. Like that was fabulous. So it took me 3 years to get through the program, but it was wonderful. And I still got to work at this place that I loved. Um, yeah. And so then when I came out and I graduated, I still was like, well, I think I want to go back into a school setting. And, there weren't a lot of openings for school social workers. So I went to a community mental health agency, kind of where everybody goes when you graduate from college, and you kind of cut your teeth, you pay your dues. It was a good experience. I learned a lot in that time. So then I had to take both of my licensure exams. And as soon as I passed both exams and I was eligible to be an independent practitioner, then I left the agency and I went out on my own. So this is my 8th year in private practice.
Wow.
So, and yeah, never did I intend to do that.
And then, okay, so then you move, then you're like, well, I probably the conversation was, I can do this wherever I go. We're moving home.
Well, that came a few years down the road.
Okay.
Um, one of my family members had a health crisis, and it kind of brought all of us siblings back together, and we just jumped in like it was planting season, and you know what that's like.
Yeah.
Plus, there still were cows to be milked and everything else. So, the 4 of us just jumped in, and it was in that time frame I realized like I think I miss this. Did I just say that out loud?
Oh boy.
Um,
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get to the farm. I missed the simplicity and the quiet. I missed the animals. Um, and I missed, seeing my siblings. I mean, we weren't that far apart, like an hour and a half, but life gets busy when you're raising kids. You don't get back as often. So it was actually my husband who suggested that we offer to buy. My brother had an acreage that was just sitting empty,
Mm,
and he said we should offer to buy that from your brother, and we did.
wow.
And 2 years later, we are moved back, and we love it. We love being out here. We have 12 acres of our own space,
Nice.
no neighbors. We have trees. We've never had trees. I'm going to have a huge garden this year. We have a barn. So there's so much that's going to come from this move back. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I've been watching you on LinkedIn and then you put a few posts about moving back. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. You know,
Yeah.
as you're talking, there's like, I feel like we need to have like a coffee. And there's probably like three
Yeah.
rabbit trails I could go down with this
Oh,
conversation.
yeah.
Like, I admire you and the work that you do. I think that's a unique person. I love like the social work and the helping the kids. You know, I never, when I was younger, like, of course you care for people, but
Right.
I always said you can't fix anybody else and you can help other people. But
Yep.
more and more lately, which can be overwhelming, and I know you would deal with this working with people, but more and more you look out, listen to the news, and yet just
Oh,
if you
yeah.
care even an ounce about people and humanity, you're like, how can I help people? Like, right? Like, and it just can be
Mhm.
so big. It's like, what do we do? So I admire that you were doing that in the school. That's so cool that you just
You
started
know,
that.
it just, I think I inherited that from my dad. My dad was a giver. Like, he had plenty of shortfalls, but that was probably one of his greatest assets.
Mm,
And I watched him in action. Like, it didn't matter who it was, if it was a family member or a neighbor and they needed something, he was there. He offered. Like, he didn't care. Didn't matter if he didn't have, and so I think I kind of learned that from dad a little bit. I don't
yeah,
know.
that's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Thank you for sharing your journey. I always like you when I talk to people, I know why I started this show because we've had really at the root of it 8 years ago succession planning and some stuff that happened. And
hmm,
I try and be vague to be like confidential and respectful, but I'm
right.
like, this breaks apart families. So I'm gonna start a show. I have a platform, I had a media company, I did this. So I
There
know
you
my
go.
why. And then when I get other people on the other side of the camera, you can just tell usually when people are like a why driven, right? Like mission,
Mhm.
like it's more and nothing's wrong with just a job. I mean, that's beautiful, that's
Right.
perfect, but you can often tell when people are doing something for a deeper reason, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
I like that. Anyways, thank you for sharing your story.
You bet.
I want to ask you, you work hands-on with farmers, you do counseling. So maybe
Hmm.
talk about that. I'll ask my question and then talk about how you work with farmers.
Okay.
My question is, anybody, again, that opens the news, listens to commodities, inflation, the
Uh-huh.
price, like we know farmers are overwhelmed. Me trying to care for people, I'm like, how do we fix this, right? And it's so much bigger than me. So I go down, I go, how do I bring on the best guests with information that can impact farmers? That's where I can help. So I want to hear your take on like everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like out there? And especially I know some people are really hurting right around the world, but in US too. And I mean, you could get political here or not, but take it away and talk about how
Yeah.
you work with farmers too, maybe.
It's definitely a challenging time right now. So I made the decision to try to focus my practice around the farming community when I kind of was watching how my family is handling things. And I didn't pay attention as a kid, growing up. And I'm looking at some of the expenses and I'm listening to the news and I'm doing a little bit of research on my own and I'm like, how are farmers doing this? Like
Mhm.
I this would be a really hard job and I had no idea the amount of stress that they were facing until I started digging and paying attention. And so that was kind of when I made the decision I'm going to focus my practice on them and their families and I want to really work on reducing or getting rid of stigma if we can.
Mm,
And in South Dakota, uh, farmers and ranchers are 3.5 times more likely to die by suicide than any other occupation. And
wow.
I don't like those rates. Like that's awful. So we need to step up and we need to do more for this. So for the last 2 years, I have been pouring into research and building connections and just trying to find a platform where I can share and educate and hopefully start to kind of change some of the ways that we view our mental health and wellness. To me, you can't have mental health without, like, you can't be physically fit without including mental health.
Yes.
They go together hand in hand. And I wish so much that we could have learned this, earlier on.
Preach.
Um, like for exercising, yes, we need exercise for physical health, but boy, oh boy, exercise is so good for our mental health. If you want to talk about reducing stress or bringing down your anxiety,
Mhm.
you need to just get out there and go for a walk or get on a bike, or you got to move your body just a little bit. And the change is just phenomenal if you can do that often enough. Um, there's just so many things. I I've been taking a lot of trainings just to make sure that I'm getting all my bases covered from what I didn't get while I was growing up or what I maybe have forgotten since I've been away for so long. And I was at this training at one of our universities, and we had a panel of producers sitting up on the stage. And I'll never forget this. This producer said, if you think that I'm going to let anybody see my pickup parked at your office, you're crazy. He
Mm.
goes, do you know how much people and neighbors are just watching and waiting for any weak point so they can take your land? And I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like probably letting my mouth hang open. Like,
Mm.
that's not what I remember about growing up. Our neighbors weren't like that. Like,
Yeah.
okay, when did this change come into play? Like, I had no idea. Um, wow. Okay. And so they're not going to come to my office, which they haven't. It's been very hard to get them in my door. So with my research, I found this gentleman in Minnesota, Ted Matthews, who would make house calls or farm calls. And
Beautiful.
he was doing it for, I think, about 35 years. And he just retired last June. And he and I met on the phone, a wonderful guy, had so much information to share. The beauty of what he was doing was that his state paid his salary. It was a budget line, in the budget, like it was an item line in the budget. And
Nice.
so they truly believed in his mission and his work, and it just made it that much easier for him to get out and see people. So I thought, well, why can't I do that? I would love to do that. I love being on the farm. I love being around the animals. And why not go where they're more comfortable? And I'm more comfortable in jeans and t-shirt anyway.
Hmm.
So try to really find ways to get around the insurance piece. Like I don't want to have to deal with the insurance piece, but I haven't really been able to find any stakeholders that are willing to sponsor and pay, for people to have counseling. I don't know how to go to the state level and lobby. I didn't learn that
Mm.
trait or that skill. So then I thought, well, okay, what if I just bill insurance if they want to use insurance? And if they don't want to use insurance, I have a cash rate. We'll make it work. And so that's been 2 years, and I think I've been to two farms.
Okay.
Like they are very, very slow to trust. I'm
Right.
learning. They really want to know who I am and that I am credible. So, and I get that. Um, I've had more actually. I've had probably 6 to 7 in my office, which that's pretty good.
Done.
But my office is kind of disguised. I'm in a law firm renting space. So you don't know,
Yeah.
it's kind of incognito, I guess. But I think what's really going to be nice is when I get my practice moved to our farm. That's the goal for this year.
Okay.
The county approved it that I could have a business on the farm. And so my husband and I are going to do a lot of the construction ourselves, and I'll have a formal office put in our shop so that if people do want to come in and simply sit and talk or do some of the therapy practices that I do, we can do that. Or we'll head out to the barn. I'll have some therapy animals. We can do some equine therapy, or if they just simply want to comb and brush some of the cows or the horses as we talk through life, we can do that too. I'm going to have big gardens. If, hey, you want to go dig in the dirt, we can go dig in the dirt. Um, we have 2 shelter belts, and so I'm hoping at some point to get some walking paths carved into the shelter belts. I believe in nature. I believe in animals as all of them having healing properties.
Mm.
And I think what wouldn't be comfortable about coming to see me there.
Right.
So lots of goals for this year, but I really think it will be helpful just to try to make a dent and give these people who give everything to feed the world a safe place to figure out, well, what do I do? I don't know what to do next. Whether it's they're struggling with succession planning, or they don't know how to have that hard communication, or maybe because of the markets right now, the finances are really scary and they're not sleeping, and maybe they're not eating, and so maybe we do have some underlying anxiety or depression going on, and so how can we treat that? So I'm hoping by just making services more accessible that I can get them in the door and help them find some solutions.
Oh, I just feel for you. Like when you're talking about this, I'm like, how do we help? I I look at this, and again, I kind of go into fixer mode about mental health, and it's okay. I did a YouTube video, a solo one. I've done a few
Okay.
of those. And I said, Farmers Let's Talk. It's kind of right
Oh,
when the tariffs were hitting and all that
yep.
was, and do you remember there was a farmer? He was in, I think, Arkansas, and they had a big town hall, and 400 farmers showed up, and he talked about the cotton or rice guy.
Yes, I do remember that. I saw that.
Okay, so it was right around that time, and this was all hitting and really coming to the forefront.
Mhm.
And I did a video because, of course, I care, and I'm a farmer, and I go, to me, it seems unbelievable. And it's hard to walk the line because you're an entrepreneur and that's a free market and great, and we like it. But
Right.
the one line that I shared in there, and going to mental health, I said, how is it fair that at the stroke of a pen or a political word or here, a political tweet, how is
Right.
it fair that a farmer's livelihood could just be washed? I'm like that, and I don't like the words, how is it fair? Because it goes against my nature. I'm not like a whiner. And entrepreneurs, we take that risk, but that's
Hmm.
above and beyond. So then I said that one line. And then the second thing I said is, okay, so we plan to like at least meet cost or whatever it was. We put it in,
Right.
we have our numbers, and then all of a sudden we're in a situation. I'm like, how is
Hmm.
it fair? And then my second line was mental health, you think? Because I don't know. I'm a business owner times two. And
Right.
if somebody and something happens to my income, I don't correct me if I'm wrong, Colleen. I'm just trying to open honest dialogues here and kind of how I feel. If somebody comes or something happens and it affects our livelihood, and all of a sudden you're facing huge losses and you
Hmm.
don't know where to turn, mental health, you think. And that's kind of why I said that. But I also want to normalize the conversation. Like, no,
Exactly.
right? Like, mental health is important. There's things out of our control. Anyways, I just opened a can of worms. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I just love that there's people like you saying, hey, let's talk. I can help, right? Yeah.
Um, yeah, you're exactly right. I can't imagine what that would feel like if my livelihood would be attacked like that.
Yeah.
So, and the beauty of what I'm finding in these last 2 years, I guess we're probably going on 3 years now. I have made so many beautiful connections with people out there doing things like what I'm trying to do here, people who have taken things and gotten a lot farther than I have. Like there are some phenomenal people who have a heart and passion for our farm and ranch communities, and they want to see things get better, and they want to make sure that nobody suffers alone. And so to me, that's been probably one of the best things about this whole transition. So I've run into a couple organizations, one of them from Canada. I'm working with the National Farmer Mental Health Alliance. And so we met through LinkedIn, and they do a ton of things for the farm and ranch communities there. And so we're trying to get that going here in the US. Um, there's just so many resources, and they have a wonderful training program to get therapists acclimated to a little
Mm,
bit more of farm and ranch life, so that if you didn't grow up on a farm or you don't really know what that experience is like, you have a better understanding, and then you can open up your doors to take in more farmers and ranchers. Because really, we have to be able to empathize with what they're going through. We have to be able to use some of their language, understand where they came from. And if you're not genuine, it's not going to go very far, you know? And so, Loren and her crew there are doing a phenomenal job with all of the resources they're putting forth. Elaine Froese is another one. She does a lot with the succession piece, and I'm taking away a lot of information from her as well, because as I do get to meet with some of these farm and ranch families, that is probably one of the biggest stressors on their plate.
Yeah.
They have not either started the process because they don't know how to start, or they're afraid to start, or they don't know how to even have a conversation, or they're in the middle of it and there's friction or there's conflict.
Mhm.
I mean, it's huge, and I had no idea until these last couple of years. So I'm learning from her as well. And then in the States, I think it's the AgriSafe Network. They're doing a lot of things as well, presenting new topics, and how do we get around mental health? How do we make improvements? I mean, so there's lots of resources. It just would be nice if we could have just one big, huge conglomerate and we could all work together. Wouldn't that be nice? And maybe we could then make a big, big dent in what's happening today.
That'll probably come, I imagine, with everybody. Isn't that the way things normally happen? You get a lot of different people like doing their thing, and it's like all of a sudden, like, hey, maybe we should amalgamate. And then,
That'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had Loren on the show as well to shine a spotlight on her and the
Yep.
work that she's doing. Oh, okay. I want to ask you, let's go directly, and I want to speak about mental health because I just like, let's talk about it, right? Like,
Sure.
this is to me, we said it before that we started rolling here. When I talk about mental health, and I'm going to get you to share on this, mental
Mhm.
health and mental illness, the difference between the two. But to me, when I talk about mental health, it's the same and there's no stigma. It is,
Right.
here's my mental health right now, and here's my physical health. Like,
Right.
I can't believe with the amount of information, we'll get there with all you guys doing great work, that we don't walk into a doctor's office and say, my mental health is off. And then we talk to a doctor about that. I'm sure we'll
Mhm.
get there. But to me, that's like physical health, mental health. And our mental health often is linked to our physical health, stress,
Exactly.
right? So, do you want to
Yep.
talk about the difference between mental health and mental illness? Do you want to chat about
Sure.
that?
You bet. So mental illness, I mean, that would be if you are having a specific, you have a specific condition, you have a specific diagnosis that meets all of the criteria. Um, we have this little, well, it's not little, we have a book. It's kind of like the Bible of mental health. It's the DSM-5. And so that has all of your diagnosis codes because you're required to have diagnosis codes for insurance purposes. And so if you meet the criteria, then you have the diagnosis, and that is mental illness. So whether you're talking depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, PTSD, that would be mental illness. When you talk about mental health, that is like your overall well-being. So we're going to talk about, well, how do you cope with stress? What do your relationships look like? Are you sleeping okay? Are you getting through the days? Like, can you handle your day-to-day functions? That's like mental health.
Okay.
But in my mind, I think much like you do. I think they're very, very similar. And how can you have one without the other?
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Um,
curious where like stress and anxiety, I'm like, is that in health or is that in illness already? Because to me, there would be a spectrum too, wouldn't there be?
well, you're right. Yeah. So
Okay.
anxiety would be an illness, but many times the anxiety is due to a specific event or a specific season of life. And so maybe when you get through that season, the
Yeah.
anxiety goes away or you learn how to deal with it. Um, and so, I mean, there are diagnoses that are a little more temporary or maybe not as stringent. So maybe we have anxiety and it's due to this specific time of your life. And so I guess that would make it a little bit less
Uh,
intimidating for people,
Yeah,
maybe.
kind of like situational versus like
Right,
a condition, right?
right,
Situation.
right.
Is that right? I'm
And
trying to
so,
figure this out, and I don't care if I look like a fool on the show here. I'm asking the hard questions and trying to just make this normal for people because, like I
mhm,
said, okay, so I said mental health, you think maybe that was the wrong wording, but to me it's like stress, anxiety, you think with tariffs
right,
and all of that to me. But
right.
I guess my next question, and I don't want to hop in there if you want to finish or if you need to finish or go ahead, but now what is the line, the gray line, I'm sure, between normal or you should seek some help with this? Kind of, I guess, to what I was just saying, maybe.
Right, right. So if you are experiencing some of these symptoms, like maybe you're not sleeping, and that's been going on for 2 weeks, maybe three, you have no appetite, or you're the exact opposite, you're eating all the time, even though you're not hungry. If you are more irritable or you get easily irritated and that's not usual for you, um, maybe you're turning to substances, like maybe you're not really a drinker, but all of a sudden you're realizing that the 12 pack of beer doesn't last very long in the fridge. Um, Maybe you're also having some thoughts like, gosh, would my family be better off if I weren't here? Like those would all be very, very serious signs and symptoms like you need to get in and see someone. And whether that's your family doctor or you try to get in with a counselor, or if maybe that thought of my family would be better off if I weren't here and here's how I'm going to do it, then that would be like you actually need to go in like right now and have an assessment because your family doesn't want that for you.
Yeah.
They would not be better off without you. And so um yeah, and it's different for everybody. Everybody handles those life situations differently, but those are kind of the key ones, you know. I teach a QPR training, a suicide prevention training, and we
Oh,
talk a lot about, you know, when your neighbors or your loved ones are not acting how they normally act, you know, like maybe used to be very boisterous and outgoing, and now they're the exact opposite. Used to be very social and they never miss church, but now they don't ever attend church. Like some of those things too can be like, I wonder if something's going on. And so we need to be a little bit more like we need to pay a little bit more attention to our neighbors, our loved ones, our friends, our family. We need to be checking in. Um, and then the QPR we teach then how do you ask the question? Are you thinking of killing yourself? And that's a big one. People don't like to say it. They don't like to think about
right.
it. Well, gosh, if I say that, then what if that makes them
Yeah.
carry through?
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to happen. That's not, no,
Mm,
that's a myth. We have to start asking the hard questions because if we can ask the hard questions, we might be that link or we might be that person to actually help save a life.
wow.
And so, um, just another thing that we all could be doing in these times.
That's what I wanted. And you're kind of beating me to it because I want to just have that, and that's okay. That's a natural flow. I want to just
Mhm.
have those deep conversations because, heck, if one person's watching this and it
Mhm.
helps, hallelujah, right? Like to me, it's like,
Right.
let's just talk about it. Like, it
Mhm.
breaks my heart. Oh, this is just such a deep, and you're so calm and so clearly spoken. I love this conversation with you, but it breaks my heart that anybody would be at a point where they think their family would be better off. I have always told Anthony, and I say it here, I've said it maybe in that episode with Loren and Bridget, maybe. I said to Anthony, I don't care whatever happens with this farm.
Mhm.
If we live in a box together, I am okay. Like
Yep.
it is clear, like these are material possessions. And I just,
Right.
to me, if there's a farmer out there even thinking about this and they happen to be watching this, or
Hmm.
people that are concerned, like, again, my favorite line, let's just talk about it. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it more, Colleen. But that stigma, I'm going to loop this here and go where you want to, but the big misperception concern people have. And also, like, how uncomfortable is that? Each of us, as personalities, we have a personality,
Hmm.
introverted, extroverted. We
Sure.
either deal with this or don't. I have conversations all the time, so I just throw it out there. I'm a little
Yeah.
more comfortable. But how, like, okay, when you mentioned some of the times that we should be, or some of the things we should be watching. So maybe
Hmm.
a neighbor used to be in the coffee shop all the time, and maybe
Right.
he's a single gentleman. I'll be stereotypical. We'll just make up a situation. He used to be
Sure.
in the coffee shop. We know grain commodity prices are pretty hard. Maybe we know in that area it's been a couple of years. He doesn't show up. You don't really see him around when you're driving by,
Right.
and you're concerned. Like, to me, and I'll say it, it almost seems rude, audacious, out of place to go and show up and say, "Are you okay?" You know what I mean? And those aren't the words I'm going to say. Like, we need to do
Right.
that. But I'm just thinking internally, like, if this was my neighbor and you're close, but not that close, like, I'm just saying all these things that
Sure.
people might be thinking. How do we approach this? What do we do?
Well, can I have you think about this in a different way?
Yes.
So let's pretend that this neighbor of yours, like that you do stop in,
Yep.
and he says to you, "Oh my goodness, you're the first person to stop in over a year to see if I'm doing okay."
Mm. We don't think like that, eh?
No, we don't. I
Yeah.
think we get so wrapped up in thinking, well, I don't want to be a bother. Certainly, if he needed something, he'd ask.
I don't
That's
want to
not how it
offend him,
works.
right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
But I think when we're talking about life or death, we have to be okay with that risk of offending because,
Right.
we don't want the extreme.
Yeah.
So, when I teach the QPR, we go through scenarios, we go through signs, and then we practice asking the question. And because it can be very triggering
Mm-hmm.
for the people practicing, I have them do it together as a group. Let's practice saying the question. And then you need to kind of go home and you need to practice it like in a mirror or with a friend, like because you have to get to that point of being comfortable asking. And I understand completely. When I first started doing my work and I would have to ask those questions when I was doing an intake assessment, I didn't like saying the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so this is 13 years of practice and training and but we have to get past that fear
Yeah.
because truthfully we might be the only ones asking the question for that person. And so for you showing up at your neighbors and you're afraid that he's going to think you're rude, you're the only one maybe giving him attention, like, wow. And you might be able to make a difference with him.
Mm.
I had the opportunity to hear oh, I can never think of his name. The gentleman that jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge and
Oh,
survived in Kevin Hines, maybe.
okay.
I think I had the opportunity to see him at a conference, and I will never forget. He said that he was up on that bridge and he was walking, and he said he was looking for anybody that would give him um, a look or a comment because he wanted somebody to try to talk him out of it,
Wow.
and nobody did.
Hmm.
And so then he said the last opportunity. A woman approached him and he thought, oh, here's somebody who's going to ask me how I am. And she said, well, would you take my picture? And so nobody asked how he was, and he was crying, like he was sobbing. And
What?
so he said that he remembers getting up on the edge of the bridge, and he said the minute that his hands left the railing, instant regret, like, God, please don't let me die. No, I made a mistake. I want to live. And
Wow.
I will never not hear that in my, like, such huge emotion. And I think too, for the majority of people who get to that point, they don't want to die. They just have to find a way to stop the pain.
Yeah.
And it's so scary. It's so, and you have to think too that whatever they're going through, whether it's a substance abuse issue or a loss or financial crisis, like the majority of things are temporary, the
Mhm.
majority, not all. And so if we can get resources, if we can get support, if we can get help, if we can get medication if we need it, all of those things can then provide a lifeline to get you through to the next stable point. Doesn't have to be so final.
That's deep. I want to share one thing and then come back to what you were saying about the gentleman that jumped off the bridge. Have you ever heard of Garber Mate? Garber?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one of my Facebook friends actually shared um, a short of him, and that's how I learned about him many, many years ago.
Yep.
And he was talking about addiction. And I want to bring this up here because from what I've learned, and it was such a precise little clip, he said, you don't ask why the substance abuse, you ask why the pain, because people are
Um,
numbing out. And
right.
for that was at the beginning of my journey, like with anxiety, like of learning this for my show and
Hmm.
just generally in life. And he said, don't ask why the addiction, you ask why the pain that started the numbing, whether
Yeah.
drugs or alcohol. And I'm like, wow. So
Hmm.
I just thought to say that because in agriculture, one of the common things when we're talking about mental health is watch for numbing out, right? So
Yep.
you have 3 years of bad commodities. I mean, another whiskey will help numb the
Hmm.
pain. And
Yeah.
we all know people, I assume, that have had um, liquor issues like alcoholic. You wake up, well, then you just start drinking again because you want to numb the pain. You feel like a failure.
Hmm.
I'm just having this hard conversation of a lot of mix of things because a lot of people don't realize that numbing out is because of mental pain, right? And if we're having
Right.
bad times and then leading into suicide, like let's just bring this awareness. But going to the gentleman that jumped, I guess one, we never know. That's what I find fascinating
Hmm.
about life and humans. You can look generally at anybody's face. They could be thinking about taking their own life right at the moment that you see them. But
Right.
we don't see that. Like we don't know. So the fact, I'm just thinking this out loud, if you're like concerned about something, but you're like, oh no, like he's a great gentleman. He's so happy. Like, no,
Right.
because we don't see it and nobody says it. So then I'm walking myself down the path. It's like, no, I'm not going to check in on him because of course he's okay. Like he's always smiling, right? These are the things we do.
Right. But nobody's immune.
Right.
It doesn't matter like your class in society, how wealthy you are, or if you're in poverty. None of it matters. Like there is nobody that is immune from stressors of life.
Isn't that the truth, eh? And it's,
Hmm.
yeah, whether it's financial, relationship, we don't
Right.
know. Whatever trauma
Right.
happened.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay, without, and then I know you do a course on this. So without trying to get in the nitty-gritty, but I like to be actionable and have
Uh,
those hard conversations. So let's say you're concerned about a neighbor. Heck, I mean, you could grab some muffins, and I'm being stereotypical. You don't
Exactly.
need to bring muffins, but think of an excuse if you have to, whether it's an item. Because to be
Yep.
honest, I'm not a super person to drop in. I'm not a dropper inner. I find that uncomfortable to begin with. So I'm thinking I'd be like, okay, I got to find a reason, like
I,
the ploy for me. For me,
yeah.
others might be okay, like they're a different personality, but you find a reason, you drop in. What do you say? Without, and I know we're going into in-depth training here, but how do you say it?
Well, hey, I haven't seen you at church lately, or
Mm,
I don't see you at the ball games anymore. Like wherever you used to see them, I think that's a really easy way to
mm,
kind of make that conversation.
nice.
Um, yeah, I don't see you around anymore.
Okay.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Are
That's,
you okay?
yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything real big and flamboyant. It just, are
Okay.
you okay? I don't see you around anymore. I'm
Mm,
worried about you.
okay. That's safe.
It is. And
Yeah.
the majority of the time, I think they will be honest with you if you are genuine.
Okay. I wondered that. I'm like, are they just going to say, yeah, I'm okay or not? I didn't know.
I think, yes, for the majority of them, they will be honest with you. Um, I had a thought, and of course, my brain just went
Can
blank for
I
a
say
second.
something while you're thinking, or
Yes,
do you need
yes.
quiet? Okay, so
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, but either way, you stopped in and you're like that person that guy was looking for on the bridge. So you've stopped in,
Exactly.
and whether they say something back to you or not, I'm sure there's a potential that you change the situation because they might be like,
Yes.
well, I am depressed, or they keep it in their head, but they're like, oh my goodness, somebody cares about me,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Because I think when you get to that point or you get to that state
Yeah,
of the pain, you don't feel that you matter to anybody, or you don't feel that anybody cares about you because they're busy living their life and you're a burden, or you ask too much, or whatever it might be that clouds your head at that time.
right.
You know, we don't always think logically when we're in that place of pain.
That makes sense.
And so I think for just showing that person, hey, I'm here, I care, um, I think that can be a huge step in changing the trajectory.
Mm,
A lot of times too, for some of the people that I talk with, the male population, they probably aren't going to stop over with muffins, right? So I'm like,
right.
hey,
Sorry, I shouldn't have
call
said
them
that.
up.
That's a
You're
barrier.
okay.
Yeah.
I said, call them and say, hey, I'm heading to the sale barn today. Do you want to ride along?
Okay.
Or, let's go uptown and grab a Coke or a coffee. Like, doesn't have to be anything big. Just reach out
Yes.
and get something started. I think that's where, and truthfully, I kind of wish we would all get back to that way of life. We lived in a city for over 30 years, and when we first moved into our neighborhood, every neighbor knew everybody. I mean, and it was like you would send the kids out to play because you knew all the neighbors, right? And those of us that were home would keep our eyes out, and then I suppose about 15 years in, things started changing. Neighbors started moving out of the neighborhood and new neighbors would move in, but some of the new neighbors really didn't want to come meet us
Right.
and they kind of kept to themselves. And so then, well, we don't know all the neighbors, so maybe you guys shouldn't just be running around in the neighborhood. And so I kind of would like I would like us to go back to some simpler times, like where you knew your neighbors, where you looked out for each other. Um, I don't know, like even getting together on a Sunday, like card parties or game nights, or I don't know, just to have some community again,
Yeah.
I think would be really nice for everybody.
In my trying to fix the world, I'm like, how do we fix this? Right. And exactly that. Like, and the reason why I said about the muffins or like having a reason is
Mhm.
because guilty as charged. I'm not a dropper inner anymore. So I'm like,
Well,
that's weird. I'm going to drop in and I feel like I need to find a reason,
well,
right?
right.
Because we're not that world anymore. We're so
Mm-mm.
connected on social, but so disconnected. So I
Right.
love that you say that. And me trying to find my reason was because I'm not comfortable, and many of us aren't dropper inners
Oh,
anymore, right?
I don't know that any of us are anymore,
Yeah.
truthfully.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to kind of get back to that a little bit.
Yeah. I know.
Um,
I'm personally trying to work on that too.
do you remember Sunday dinners? I don't know. We had Sunday dinners when I was
Yeah.
a kid, and everybody came home, the whole family,
Yeah.
and that was every Sunday. And oh my gosh, I miss those. Those were
Yeah.
such good times.
There's so much lack of real connection in the world.
I think people are so busy
Yeah.
just trying to get through the day or to figure out there's a lot going on in our world. And yeah, I don't know.
You want to hear the weirdest story? I'm just going to share it.
Sure.
I've never really shared it with anybody except for my husband, who I would have went to sit down with. I was at a wildlife social. Okay.
Okay.
So in a hall in a small town, right? Big long tables and chairs stacked. We know how it is. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not even, that was 15, 20 years ago already. I
Okay.
haven't been a social in how long, right? Speaking about what we're speaking about.
Right.
But this moment like stuck with me. And I don't think it'll ever leave me. And it is so relevant to what we're talking about. So I was probably at the end of the table. Washrooms were over there. So I'm going, and of course, this is jam-packed like sardines or cattle in a pen.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm walking and trying, everybody's kind of, their chairs are back. And so I'm walking, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if I lost my balance, what it was, and I grabbed what I thought was the back of a chair.
Mm.
It was a lady's hand, and her hand was on the chair.
Okay.
And it just impacted me so deeply. She was, I'd say, about 60, 70 years old. So that
Sure.
generation that used to drop in and do all those
Sure. Yeah.
community things. So I accidentally grabbed her hand. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And then she just kind of grabbed my hand and she said, not in a creepy way, but she's like, you know what? That was so nice when I accidentally touched her hand. And
Mm.
it was just such a moment. And to me, I don't think that'll ever go away about the power. And I'm not saying we need to grab everybody's hand, but just
No.
like a real connection. And she
Yep.
said, don't feel bad. She turned to me and she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
kind of just said, it's okay, and touched my hand. And she said, this is nice. I'm like,
Human connection.
and that's where I'm going, and kind of like we're
Yes.
talking about it. But that moment is etched in my brain that I
Uh-huh.
accidentally touched a lady's hand. She held my hand. And even for me, it was just such a deep connection
Right.
of a random lady. I go to the washroom, and then, of course, you come back and you're like, oh, I'm kind of awkward. But then you smile. And I sat
Mhm.
down and just kind of sharing that, because connection is important and we've lost that, and going into mental health and concerned
Yes,
about our neighbors, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Colleen,
there's so much. There's so much.
I know. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for this beautiful conversation. To me, you are obviously a
mm.
counselor. I feel so comfortable, and you're
Thank you.
so calm. And all my guests are beautiful, but a lot of my conversations are quite like snappy, right? Like question back and forth.
Mhm.
You're so calm, and I love that.
Huh.
Yeah, I've appreciated this conversation. So you've shared a lot of good stuff. I mean, everything we talked about, reaching out if we're concerned. And if I'm going to paraphrase,
Mhm.
I don't think we can say it wrong, can we?
No,
Okay. Okay.
no. You just have to ask the question.
Okay. And then obviously, if they're like, yeah, well, right before you were coming, I was planning on, we call help, right? We call 911, that type of thing.
We figure out what we can do. So
Okay.
if that person opens up and says, well, actually, I was thinking of taking my life. Well, yep, you need to get some help. So um and when we do the QPR training, we talk about doing a warm handoff. We don't ever want to leave somebody in that state
Okay.
on their own to maneuver. And so, whether it's, would you like me to drive you to your doctor's office? Is there somebody that I could call for you? Um, There's that 988 mental health hotline 24/7. Do you want to dial that number or can I dial the number for you? Like, we want to always do a warm handoff and make sure that person is in a safe place before we leave them. Um, I mean, there's a lot to it, but I think your instincts will kick in and you'll know what to do. Um, you just never know when you're going to be
Right.
the lifeline for somebody.
Thanks for sharing that. Like the warm handoff. I'm like, okay, well, Tracy, we've put them in the house. They're checking on the person. We're not ending the episode with a little bit of help here, without a little bit of help. So that's great. Like that. What can we do? You're not going to
Hmm.
leave them. Can I call your son? I know he's down the road or whatever, right? Son,
Exactly.
daughter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put some of those links about that number. And here in Canada, I'll put some mental health numbers and
Hmm.
resources in case somebody's watching this and they're in a situation, then you have some
Hmm.
immediate answers. If people want to connect with you, whether for counseling, whether for anything to support the work that you're doing, how
Yes,
can they connect
absolutely.
with you?
They can go probably my website. Well, they could email me. Maybe that's easiest. So my name, Colleen, at embracingchangecs.com. They're certainly welcome to call me. My office number is 605-306-6383. I'm not licensed to practice in Canada,
Right.
and right now I'm only licensed in South Dakota and North Dakota, but I am not going to leave anybody hanging. I will find resources and try to give good direction. I actually did have somebody reach out across state lines. Just it kind of blew me away, but it also just reiterated how important this work is. A person from I can't remember, but it was several states away, a little bit older, didn't really know how to navigate these waters, but remembered reading one of my articles, looked up my number, actually, no, looked up my email and sent me an email. And then I replied back, and here's my number, let's talk. But not real computer savvy. How do I find somebody? What do I do? Like, all of these words are just so intimidating. And so I walked them through the process. Like, this is what I would recommend. Like, if we're not having thoughts of harming ourselves and we're okay, with a general wait time, let's start with your family physician. Let's get that appointment made. Let's get some labs drawn. Make sure that, like, your thyroid's okay. You don't have any low iron, anything else that might be causing some symptoms. And then when that doctor gives you those questionnaires, you have to be open and honest. You have to answer them honestly and tell them what's going on. And then they can make a referral for somebody they know in your area to help you with what's causing this distress. That person was so thankful. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about starting with my family doctor.
Mm,
Okay, I'm going to do that. And so that was like, oh, well, I'm glad I was there. And then they reconnected with me a few months down the road. I hope it's okay. I said, absolutely. I responded back. I did what you said, and I'm feeling a little bit better. I didn't get exactly what you had thought maybe I should do, but I'm doing okay, and I just wanted you to know.
nice.
I'll take it. Like, yeah. So,
That's why I wanted to leave with that little bit of, okay, what next? And then support, because just like the perfect example about the gentleman on the bridge, anybody want to care about me and help? We could
oh,
be, this episode
yeah.
could be, because you think of it, not mental health, but various times I've been Googling or doing search
Hmm.
words in YouTube or podcasts about something
Right.
I'm worried about or want to learn about. It brings up a podcast. We or any other podcast or your article
Sure.
could be
Sure.
that moment for that person. And you might not be the right person, but you're the right person at that moment. So,
Right.
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 And you
And
can
it's a
direct them.
direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, Colleen, I love the work you're doing. You have big
Thank
shoulders
you.
there, lady.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Like to carry that
Hmm.
that honor and I mean that pressure of helping farmers through hard times. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of an honor to get to do the work.
Yeah. I admire that. You go, lady. You go. Okay, what we'll do, I'll put all those links in the show notes. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, they can. Of course, if you're in a crisis situation, I'll include numbers like that too.
Sure.
But Colleen, thank you so much for sharing some time with us.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I really appreciate this. And your beautiful, calm ability to listen. I admire that. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
My honor. You guys
Okay.
in the audience, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this, like it, share it, get it out there so other farmers can hear this and be aware of the work that Colleen's doing. And most importantly, reduce the stigma, right? So thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.